Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Maddie.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks in a row that I've been here, so doing good. We're on a roll.
Keeping up appearances. And we don't have AJ this week. This is the first time I think me and you have done an episode in a long time.
Yeah.
Someone might be able to tell us in the comments, but yeah, it has been a while since it's been just us. But no, it's going to be a good one. Before we dive into it, Substack founding members that we'd like to thank, as we do each week: Des Windsor McGlynn, Ali Tareen, Tito, Matt, Moritz Pullman, Joey Gawler, Kemin, MJ, and Matt. Thank you for your continued support. We've got a lot of stuff coming out on the Substack at the moment. The most recent series that we've launched, for example, is Meeting the Milan Journalists. So we've got a couple of interviews out with quite prominent names in the media who cover the club. So you can find out a bit about what they do on a day-to-day basis and stuff like that. Of course, you've got the bonus podcast on there, the newsletter article. Go try it out for a week for free if you haven't already, and you can see how an average week kind of looks, and you can decide if you like it or not. It's $5 for the month or $50 for the year. Good Christmas gift maybe for somebody. And yeah, thank you to everybody who subscribes and continues to show support over there. So this week, mate, we have got 3 games to talk about, one of which is a review of the game against Fiorentina. And then 2 games that are coming up. The one on, well, we're recording this on Monday, so it's tomorrow night against Dortmund, and then Frosinone at the weekend. Going into this, and we'll start, of course, with the Fiorentina review. Going into this, we kind of thought this could end up being a pretty decisive week.
Yeah.
Of course, we'd had a bad run of league form coming into this Fiorentina game. 4 games without a win, 2 draws. Both of which we were 2-0 up in, and then back-to-back home 1-0 wins. Back-to-back 1-0 home defeats, to Juventus and Udinese. Needed to get back to winning ways in the league, without a doubt. And then knowing what's to come afterwards with the Dortmund game, which is massive in terms of whether we make the last 16 of the Champions League or not. And Frosinone, 3 home games in 8 days. Very rarely happens. Normally got an away game in there somewhere. But the team need to take advantage of this, the lack of travel and everything, and put things right from a form point of view. I think the nicest way to describe the win against Fiorentina would be hard fought, maybe gritty, something like that.
Gritty? I don't know about gritty. It was pretty boring. I think that this is exactly what we needed to get back on the right path. Losing 2 in a row at home, probably does something to the mentality of the players. Not only that, if we would have gone behind early, the fans would have just been on top of them. PK through Teo. I think that's really all you need to say in a 1-0 win, and it was by PK. It was pretty lackluster. I think there's still a lot of disconnect between the midfield and the attackers. There just seems to be no cohesiveness within the squad.
Yeah, it was a struggle. And I think we knew it would be a struggle because you start in a game without Giroud up front. Obviously, he can't start every game. We need to learn to win games without Giroud because he's 37. But then not having Leao didn't help either. He likes a game against Fiorentina. He's got a pretty good record against them. So there was that to factor in as well. No Loftus-Cheek starting in midfield and Pobega starting probably in his place. You're losing a little bit there without a doubt. Before I launch into an anti-Pobega rant, he actually wasn't terrible. So it is what it is. I think the pressure was on the back 4 to keep it solid and make sure that 1 goal would be enough to win the game. And I suppose it just about was in the end. I think on the balance of play in the first half, we probably deserved to go in a goal up.
Yeah.
The way it came, I wasn't expecting. And Jovic has struggled this season. And I'll say overall, he was disappointing in the game again. What a lovely through ball that was for Teo. We finally see Teo get that tactical freedom where he can make a run down the middle. And literally attack space in behind, as far away from a left-back position as he probably should be. Gets brought down. No arguments with the penalty for me. I think the only argument might be, was it a red card?
Yeah.
They're saying now what is it, double jeopardy or something like that. So you're not meant to get a red card if it's a last man tackle, as long as you were meant to be, as long as you're making a play for the ball. Now, when you look at the replay, I don't think Parisi is getting anywhere near the ball, and he both trips and shoves Teo over. You know, he makes sure that he goes down. And as I say, I don't think he was anywhere near playing the ball, so I think it potentially could and should have been a red card. Gazetta said it was a red card. I think if they're down to 10 men, it completely changes the game. You know, they're not able to chase it in quite the same way that they did. The second half, first half, the only other chances that we really had, we had that Pulisic shot from a central area that Terracciano, I'd say, comfortably parried over in the end. And then from a corner, we had a Pobega near post header that was again fairly easily saved, to be honest. We didn't generate loads, but I feel like we were in control of that first half. We were dictating the tempo. And then Pioli himself admitted that in the second half, it was kind of a case of acknowledging the moment that we're in. We've struggled for clean sheets. We're in a difficult run of form. We've got a massive game coming up on Tuesday against Dortmund. We're without some of our starting players. To go at it again, all out, gung-ho in the second half to try and win 3 or 4-0 would have been irresponsible. But it didn't make for a pretty second half. They were the better team, to be honest, and they had their moments.
And I don't know if you guys know, but AJ's girlfriend's family was in town. I don't think he mentioned that in the pod a few times.
I'm not sure he mentioned.
No, but he took them, I believe, to the Milan Club DC bar to watch the game, and he was a little worried that it wasn't going to be a good game and we were going to lose. So hopefully we won. So hopefully they enjoyed it, but it was pretty boring for non-soccer fans to be watching.
Look, I mean, I'm as I've said many times on the podcast, I absolutely love a clean sheet. I'm kind of an old school football fan in the sense that if we were to win the league with, as we kind of did the year that we won the Scudetto, with a load of 1-0 wins towards the end of the season, happy days. It shows that you're basically impossible to beat. And I think that with the team that we have, if you're keeping clean sheets, we've got a good chance of winning those games because we seem to always have a goal in us, apart from the Udinese game and the Juve game, which was a bit different. But in games like this against Fiorentina, who are going to try and trade blows with you in across the 90 minutes. So yeah, I was happy to see us look relatively solid, albeit those last 10 minutes, I'll say, were a little bit hairy, a little bit rough to watch. We were giving them a lot of the possession. There was a denial of a Beltran chance, and then obviously the one at the end from Mandragora. It got me thinking as well. Lecce game. Actually, no, we should start. PSG game. The Skriniar goal. Corner near post, outswinger, flicked on at the near post to the far post where someone's waiting to put it in. Lecce game, corner near post, flicked on, put in at the far post by Sansone. In this game, it also nearly cost us points again. That corner whipped in, near post flick on to the far post where Mandragora was stood unmarked. He really should have scored. He was like a yard out. Maignan, I don't think he knew too much about it, to be totally honest with you, because it hit him in the head. But you've also got to give him an awful lot of praise for being in the right position, you know, to even be near that.
Twice, right? Or was he? Yeah.
He really, really bailed us out there. And it came out after the game that he was playing with a fever. He was like 40 degrees or something like that.
101 for those
and
who don't use that metric.
Who used the other one? What's that in Kelvin? I'm sure someone can convert it for us. And yeah, he bailed us out there. Adley said that he hadn't eaten all day and stuff like that. It's kind of mental that he even played, to be honest. Some might argue a bit irresponsible, but he's the guy. He's the match winner. He's the one who will always steal us more points than he cost us. That's why he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Amazing athleticism and instinct to get over to that and to block the shot, literally putting his head on the line for the result. I think Mandragora would love to have that one back. As I say, hit it straight at him. But yeah, you've got to be there to make that save. Apart
from that, man, a lot of talk about him being injured all the time. wanting a big contract. Like if I was him, I'd be like, if I can play, I'm going to play. Right.
So, yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point. And I mean, I don't know how. I think that playing football with the flu would be immensely difficult for an outfield player. If it's different for a goalkeeper because they're not having to run up and down as much, and really they're just having to keep a calm head in sort of 1 or 2
I think the
moments
hardest
of the game.
part would be like paying attention and not getting like cloudy, you know.
Yeah. And then to take a whack on the head with the ball, like, that can't have been great for him.
No,
but yeah, he made an amazing save. And you know, I think without spoiling my man of the match selection, I think he was the reason that we kept all 3 points, because if that goal had gone in, we're talking about this in a very, very different way. You know, we're saying that second half we sat back when we should have gone for the jugular. We're still 8 points behind Inter and 6 behind Juve. As it turns out, we've cut the gap on them because they thankfully played out a 1-1 draw last night. And then obviously Napoli and Atalanta. Napoli took the points from Atalanta, so we've gained a bit on the teams outside the top 4. So we really just have to take this one to the bank and cash it in, and that's it. It will not live long in my memory as a spectacle, as a game, which is a shame, because I really thought beforehand that it would be a bit of an end-to-end game, because Fiorentina would have a go at us and we'd have some space to exploit and whatnot. It didn't end up playing out that way. It was one of the scrappier wins that we'll ever get. But yeah, we take it. And I guess the actual main headline from the game is a player that didn't really do anything at all on the field, and that is Francesco Camada, who came on at the age of 15 to become the youngest Serie A debutant ever. He overtook somebody who came on for Bologna, who was like 50 days older in 2021. What an incredible moment. I really thought it would take a very strange set of circumstances for him to come on. So like we're 3-0 up, or the game's already lost or something like that, and Pioli would just throw him on for a few minutes. But he brought him on with a 1-goal game and Fiorentina right on top, and he really trusted him to bring his energy and to press hard from the front. He didn't do, as I say, he didn't do anything, but all the clips that came out afterwards, like his name being cheered, he couldn't hide a smile when he got near the halfway line. The camera pans to his parents in the crowd who are literally crying. Like it's incredible. We've witnessed history.
Yeah.
And yeah, let it be the first of many, I guess. Number 73, I'm not so sure about that choice, given that it was Locatelli's number last, but you know, he's here, and it was an amazing moment, and chuffed a bit for him, because it's been a meteoric rise, really, considering that last season he was playing for the under-17s and the 18s. This is his first bit of the season with the Primavera. Obviously, it's dictated a bit by injuries, given we didn't have Giroud, we didn't have Leao, we didn't have Okafor, who got injured over the international break. So it was kind of by virtue of necessity, but he could have quite easily called up, you know, I don't know, he could have thrown Shaka Traore out there, or somebody who is professed to be more ready. But no, he gave him a game, and yeah, then some stories came out after the game. Apparently he showed up to the training ground yesterday with a load of pastries that him and his mum had baked. That's very nice.
It's the most Italian thing you could do.
Yeah, very Italian. Very Italian. And his teammates in turn gave him, I believe, a shirt that was signed by them all or something like that. But I've not seen a photo of that. And also Sky said that the day before the game, because he was too shy to ask the club for tickets for his friends and family, he queued up with his dad to buy them at the ticket office, which is just like ridiculous. Like, surely he got to the front of the line. Yeah, like surely he got to the front of the line and they were like, "What are you doing here? You know, you play for us." But yeah, it just reminds me of like when we had, I think it was last season, Youngdahl, the Primavera goalkeeper, got called up. Or it might have been Lapo Nava, sorry, and he got the tram home. Like he was just stood on the tram, and all the fans are around him, and he's just got his Milan kit bag on, and it's like, yeah, these young players are very, very normal people. They don't get the specialist treatment. But yeah, that's hopefully the first chapter in what will be an incredible career for Kamada.
So will he continue to train with the senior squad, or does he go back to the Primavera now?
I think he's going to train with the senior squad until Okafor's back.
Okay.
I think that's the plan. So he's training with the senior squad still now, like the day before the Dortmund game, but you can't actually play against Dortmund because UEFA have a different regulation to Serie A, where you have to be 16 and you have to have a professional contract. But also he's banned for the Primavera's Youth League game, which is the Youth Champions League game against Dortmund, because he got a red card in the last game against PSG. So he's not eligible to play any game this week, basically. So he might as well keep training with the first team. And then Okafor's not expected to be back against Frosinone on Saturday. So in all likelihood, he will stay and be called up again for that game.
Maybe he'll get to start. Doubtful.
Well,
I don't want to see Jovic.
I mean,
at least give us some entertainment, right?
Yeah, man, yeah. And we ought to mention in that Fiorentina game that Jovic missed a big chance to get his first goal for the club. He got put through one-on-one and he aimed it bottom right. I still think, I argued with Lorenzo about this at the time, but I still think it was the right finish to go for, to be honest, because the keeper was diving down one way and he stretched out a leg. And it was a very good save by Terracciano in the end. But then you look at the replay back, he's like, why didn't he chip it over the keeper? Right. Why didn't he dink it? He's just trying to keep it simple. Like, he just wants his first goal. I would say great work on the I say assist, the pass through that won the penalty. He got in a dangerous area for that chance. So, like, there's still a bit of something there. There's some flickers of life, but until he gets a goal, we're not looking at much here with Jovic. So maybe it is Kamada's season. Tops and flops, and then we will move on. Top for me, Mike Maignan saved the game.
I don't think anyone really stuck out to me as a top performer. I think it was a pretty lackluster game. But I'm gonna do can I do the defensive unit? We finally kept a clean sheet at home, and I think that's a big morale booster. So
yeah, definitely. My flop of the game, this is a bit more difficult because in the same way that nobody stood out as being a bright spot, I don't think that anybody stood out as being an absolute disaster either. However, in a game where we're a bit thin on options up front, and the front three that we have to start is basically known, and this particular player had stayed at Milanello over the international break as well, knowing that he was going to get the start on the right. I was a little bit disappointed with Chukwueze. I think he needs to do more. I was happy to see Pulisic going over to the left side because we know that he can do that. I think it was the only option available as well. Jovic down the middle is what it is. He doesn't have much chemistry with anyone else in the team really yet, and I'm not sure if it's going to come. But then Chukwueze, it's like, right, our most expensive summer signing, playing in his preferred position in a game where he'll be free to do what he can to create and stuff. He worked hard. I'll give him that. He covers ground. He chipped in a bit defensively as well. The moments he did get on the ball, I just think it's so easy to telegraph what he's going to do at the moment. He either dribbles straight at someone or cuts inside onto his left foot and his pass/cross doesn't beat the first man. We need to see more from him. So I'd say he's my flop.
I am going to agree, but to be devil's advocate, he has not gotten a lot of game time. He has zero chemistry with practice chemistry and game chemistry are going to be two different things, I think, because of the pressure, He has no game chemistry with everyone. Jovic is never the starter. So if anything, he's going to have it with Giroud, right? Who was on the right? Pobega? Or was Pobega down the middle?
Pobega's right side the midfield,
okay.
Yeah.
He's got Pobega on the right side. So, how much... Yeah. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because I also have a gripe with Pioli and how he manages good players. So I'm not going to get on his case yet, but he had so many chances across the ball in there and just didn't do it correctly. At some point you're a professional footballer. You should know how to do these things, but so he will also be my flop.
Yeah, I think like with Chukwueze as well, as you say, he hasn't played loads. He hasn't had loads of starts. He had that injury which kind of took him out as he was probably going to get a good run of games. I'm encouraged in the sense that he doesn't look physically off the pace or anything like that. And it's his decision-making that's been problematic, if anything. Mm-hmm. And I think that can only get better. Like, it can't really get worse. So when it gets better, I think the ceiling's pretty high. Well, unless he starts scoring own goals or something. But I think the ceiling's pretty high once he starts getting... a couple of good performances in a row. I think he had an all right game at Lecce. He got his first assist for us. And then there's a 2-week break, so the momentum's kind of gone. Then he gets thrown into the start here. Doesn't have much chemistry with Pobega behind, or Jovic to his left, or even Calabria, really, still. And he just tried to do too much on his own. But it will come, and we know that there's a player in there. So, as you said, benefit of the doubt on that. So, from Fiorentina, another home game coming up against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. So this is it, really. This is do or die time in the Champions League. We said that last time when we played PSG. Obviously, that really was must win, because if you go your first 4 games without winning, then it is very, very difficult to make it through, if not impossible. But we got the win against PSG. Dortmund have won back-to-back games against Newcastle, which means they're kind of like the surprise leaders of the group. We're in third. We've now got a scenario where if we beat Dortmund, I mean, it's all in our hands still. Right. If we beat Dortmund on Tuesday night, then we're kind of in the driving seat going into that final game against Newcastle. However, if we don't beat Dortmund, then we're kind of, I don't know, we're hoping on near enough out. Yeah, unless Newcastle were to beat PSG, which seems unlikely at this point. And yeah, then it would sort of go down to the final round. All the combinations
of actually a wild last day.
It would be a wild last day. I kind of have a feeling that it might go that way, but my prediction for this game probably kind of counteracts that. But yeah, this is massive. I think going into the group stages, once we saw the schedule and stuff, we probably felt like this is the most winnable game on paper. Dortmund at home, if not Newcastle at home. However, with the way that things are, with Dortmund having won back-to-back games in this competition and keeping 2 clean sheets against Newcastle as well, yeah, they're coming into it top of the group, and I don't think any of us were really expecting that. But this should be massive, you know. It'll be a sold-out crowd at San Siro. Obviously, Dortmund will travel well. They'll come knowing that if they avoid defeat, they're looking okay going into that final game at home against PSG. But there are simply too many combinations to list off as to what happens tomorrow night and how that impacts the last round of games. But there is an article on our website which you can find, which says all the combinations. We've got to go for the win, though. And I think that that's important, because if we were playing to defend a result, I'm not sure we have that in us. I'm also not sure that Dortmund have it in them to try and come and play for a 0-0 either. That's not really the way that they play. But yeah, anyway, Dortmund, last time that we played them, were in 4th in the league. We're playing them this time and they're in 4th still. The difference is last time they were 1 point off top. This time they're 10 points off top. Bayer Leverkusen are running away with the league in the Bundesliga. Them and Bayern Munich are basically fighting out for the title, or at least as it appears at the moment. There has been some pressure on Dortmund's head coach, Edin Terzic, after a couple of bad results. They got beaten 4-0 at home by Bayern. They lost away against Stuttgart. In their most recent game, they were 2-0 down at home against Mönchengladbach, but they came back to win 4-2. So that probably saved his bacon a little bit as well. But yeah, Dortmund are coming as a team that have been weirdly overperforming in the Champions League, probably, and underperforming a little bit in the league, which is a dangerous combination. The team news for us, anyway, is that Giroud is available for this game because his suspension obviously only applies to the league. So he'll play this one. Leao is not going to be back for it, so I think it'll be Giroud in between Pulisic and Chukwueze again. Loftus-Cheek he's apparently going to play a bit further upfield again, like he did against PSG. So it'll be like a 4-2-3-1 with Reinders and Krunic as the defensive midfielders. Then we'll have Calabria, Chow, Tomori, and Teo as the back four. So that will remain the same. Obviously, the absences we've got Kalulu, Pellegrino. Caldara doesn't really count, does he? But Sportiello, Benacer, who's been training with the team for 2 weeks now, so his return is very close. Liao and Kier. For Dortmund, they've got Haller and Adeyemi back, as well as Emre Can. But apparently, one of the defenders, Nicholas Sula, has not travelled due to being ill, and they've had an outbreak of illness in the squad as well. So that's something else that's interesting. How do we feel about this one? Are we going to get the job done?
I think we will. I think I can't believe I'm going to say this, with Giroud back, it might help connect the front three a little bit more. Loftus-Cheek is like when he plays, we just look like a whole different team. I don't like Krunic in the starting lineup or on the bench. I just don't like him in Milan things or on our wage bill. I would rather have Musa there. I think Musa's kind of in a poor form, but his ceiling is much higher than Krunic's, so I think that it's important that he continues to play. I think that this might be a breakout game for Chuck Weezy. I don't know. I got in my head now. I can't say his name. So I think that we will win 2-0, another clean sheet with Pulisic and Chuck on the score sheet.
It's an interesting one for Pulisic, is this, against his former club. Yep. We played them in a return fixture, and it was a 0-0 draw, where I think the scoreline doesn't reflect how entertaining the game was. It was quite end-to-end, but both teams missed big chances. I think both teams could say that they might have won that on another night. Chukwueze missed a couple of chances in that game actually as well, so it'd be important for him to take the first one that he gets tomorrow night. I am with you on Loftus-Cheek as well. Like, I think he's been our big difference maker so far this season, and when we don't have him, unfortunately, he has missed time due to injury. We really pay for it. The stats are that our average points per game drops from 2.4 to 1.3, and our average goals per game dropped from an average of 2 to 0.8. So yeah, he is quite literally a difference maker for us, and we all saw how he performed against PSG. I won't go so far as to say he was the direct match winner in that game because he didn't score the winner or anything like that. But he was so dominant in the middle of the park. And when he goes on those 60, 70-yard runs where players are just bouncing off him, it helps us so much in terms of easing pressure and evading the press and everything. Having Loftus-Cheek back is what is filling me with quite a bit of confidence for this game, or at least more than I would have the other way around if it was Pobega in that particular role or Reinders playing further or whatever. I think RLC is our metronome. We play as well as he does. So yeah, I think Dortmund are dangerous. Don't get me wrong. They've got, I think, Brandt, Marlon, Fulkrug, who've all scored. They're all like joint top scorer. They've got quite a few. I think it's 7 or 8 players that have scored multiple goals this season. So their attacking threat is quite spread.
6 players who've scored 2 or more goals. That's phenomenal.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's it's kind of where we were when we were lacking a striker who could stay fit. You'd have to get goals from across the board. Brandt's having a really good season. He's on 4 goals, 5 assists, I believe. Or that might just be in the league. But yeah, they've also got some experience in their side as well. You got Hummels at the centre of the back line, Emre Can, who knows the Champions League from his time at Liverpool and Juve, Marco Reus, who feels like he's been there an eternity now. And as said, Marlon and Adeyemi are back and available. Sebastian Haller as well. So yeah, they'll have a bit of confidence as well. Ryerson, the fullback from that they signed in the summer from Norway said, "Oh, we showed in the first leg that we can beat them." It ended 0-0, but well done for that. I fancy us to win this 2-1. I think keeping a clean sheet will be difficult. If we go behind in this game, I don't want us to, but I'm really interested to see how we would respond to that.
Yeah, if
that
we go behind, I don't think we're gonna.
Yeah, that would be a pretty perilous situation. But we went behind against PSG, and I would have said that that's even worse, but we managed to come back. We don't have Liao, who was man of the match in that particular game, so we're going to have to play this one smarter. I think I'd like to see Pulisic score against his former club and Chukwueze get a goal as well. I think that would be the absolute ideal. But I think Giroud will score the winner. I think he's just going to keep that red-hot streak going. And yeah, as I say, 2-1. I believe we'll go 1-0 up, then it'll be 1-1, and then we'll win it in the second half. And we would have it in our own hands then, going into the final game against Newcastle, which I found out last week I've got a ticket for. So I'm happy to be going to that one. We go then from Champions League action into the final game of a 3-game homestand against Frosinone. So yes, as mentioned, Frosinone come to San Siro on Saturday night for the final of a stretch of 3 home games for us. They were the runaway winners of Serie B last season, so they got themselves back into the top flight, and they've taken to it pretty damn well.
Yeah.
They're mid-table. They've won 5 games, which I don't think any of us had them winning 5 out of 13 games, given the start to the season that they've had. They've already secured some impressive scalps as well. They've beaten Atalanta. They put 4 past Sassuolo to beat them. They've beaten Verona, they've beaten Empoli, and most recently they beat Genoa with a 94th minute winner. So yeah, they're doing really well under Eusebio Di Francesco, who obviously is no stranger to Serie A, having been coach of Sassuolo and Roma, among others. Their standout player has without a doubt been the guy on loan from Juventus, Matthias Sule, who is on, or it might be Sula, who is on 5 goals for the season already. And yeah, for them to be comfortably way above the bottom 3 is fantastic for them.
Yeah,
they just need to stay up. To be honest, they didn't spend a load of money in the summer. In fact, what they got were majority loan players and a couple who came in for an undisclosed fee. But yeah, essentially they're clawing their way towards another season in the top flight. They're level on points with Monza and Bologna, for example. They're actually above Lazio in the table. Lazio in the bottom half. I feel like that's kind of gone under the radar. But they're doing really, really well. And I think that the fact that they're doing so well and the fact that they're so comfortably above the bottom 3 means that they will come to play us and it'll be a bit of a free hit for them.
Yep.
They'll play the game with no pressure. That means that they'd love to come and get a point against us. I've no doubt about that. If they were to escape with from San Siro with a result, they would class that as another success in what has already been a very positive season for them. However, I think they might go for it a little bit more because of the fact that they've got such a points gap to play with, and because of the fact that a lot of their talent is on the attacking end. Team news for us, don't really have an awful lot because obviously the Dortmund game comes tomorrow night and we don't know who's going to emerge unscathed from that. Knowing us, we'll have another 4 injuries or something like that to report. We hope that Liao comes back, but given that he's not done even a part of the training session out on the pitch, suggests that he probably won't be risked for it because we've got a week off after this Frosinone game. But yeah, we obviously won't have Olivier Giroud because he'll be serving the second of his 2-game suspension. Noah Okafor did part of the training, I believe, on the field today, but until he rejoins group training, we can't say that he's close to coming back. And then for the others, they're going to remain out. So we're still stretching a little thin in the attacking department. But look, it wasn't vintage against Fiorentina by any means. We're hoping for a positive result against Dortmund tomorrow night. And then if we're serious about getting back into the title fight, we still have to win this game on Saturday. There's no 2 ways about it. We can't drop the ball. We can't, instantly interrupt our 1-game run, winning run in Serie A. And I do think we'll get the job done, to be honest. I think we'll win 2-0. But I can also see Frosinone being a really difficult team to play against because of the confidence and the freedom that they will have. However, yeah, I'm going to say we win it 2-0. I'm going to say that Teo gets a goal from open play this time. And I'm going to say that Pobega gets one. I don't know. Just fucking is what it is, isn't it? No idea what the team's going to be, so just guess.
Yeah, I hope that we're like on an upward trajectory, but I can also see us just crashing and losing this game because it should be an easy win. It's kind of hard to predict who's going to start through injuries, and we don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. But I feel like we should have a clean sheet, another 2-goal win, and hopefully, if we don't win, hopefully we are in the hunt for a new manager.
Sacked after a 0-0 draw at home to Frosinone. I mean, it's never as simple as just show up and win against a team, unfortunately, especially when we've had the injury problems that we've had and rotating has become more difficult as a result. And you've got the post-Champions League burnout that even Nesta admitted last week that the old Milan sides had. It does take a lot of energy away from you. And I don't think that we're going to see a swashbuckling 4-0 or 5-1 anytime soon. However, yeah, win by any means and just stay in touch with the other teams. Well, Juve and Inter, basically, isn't it? We play on Saturday night at 8:45 Italian time, and Napoli Inter is the day after that. So again, one of them's dropping points. We're at that stage now where we've had our tough run of games to start the season, and they've all got to play each other. So it is important that we keep winning because we can really put the pressure on the two teams above us. But yeah, don't know, just do it, man. Just got to get through till Christmas, still in everything, still in the title race and hopefully through in the Champions League groups. And then I think we can say maybe it wasn't as disastrous as we all felt like it was 2 weeks ago or something. We'll do a few questions before we round off this week. Thank you to everybody who submitted them. Gregory Peck asks, are there any coaches that you are keeping an eye on, not necessarily purely replacements? He likes Fernando Diniz of Fluminense, Hendrik Rydström of Malmo, and Michel, who is at Girona. I think the most obvious one off the bat is Palladino at Monza. I think he did a really, really good job with them last season to get them up into the top half, and I think he's a very exciting young coach. Everybody will be shouting De Zerbi, but Brighton, prior to their win against Nottingham Forest at the weekend, had gone 6 games without a win. If Milan ever went 6 games without a win, the manager's head would be called for, as it was with Pioli. So I think he's certainly on the radar, but perhaps a bit further out than some others.
Sean Dyche.
Sean Dyche is by Miami. Yeah. Neil Warnock. He's still out of a job as well. Yeah, I guess the Fluminense shout's a good one. I've only seen one game of theirs, though, and that was the Copa Libertadores final where they won against Boca Juniors. The Feyenoord manager, Arne Slot, is he won the league with them last season, and they're doing all right in the Champions League as well. He's one to watch. Who did he say? Oh yeah, Girona are the surprise leaders of La Liga at the moment. The issue is with Girona, they were in Manchester City's like satellite club thing. So I just feel like anyone who does well there, even potential Pep replacement, is just going to be fast tracked into City's
right.
It's a City setup.
And even if he did jump over and like they came calling, he would just jump immediately, right? Like,
yeah, 100%. Yeah. And the other one, I guess, is Xabi Alonso, who is working absolute miracles with Bayer Leverkusen. I saw a stat. I'm going to have to look up the Bundesliga table because this stat will now be out of date. But I think they'd scored 55 goals in the season as of about a week ago. So they've scored 37 in the league in 12 games. So they're averaging over 3 goals per game in the league. They've won 11 out of 12 and they're unbeaten. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
And then in the are they in the Europa League? I don't know. But they're a very, very free scoring team. Yes, they are in the Europa League. And they're flying in that as well. So yeah, keep an eye on Xabi Alonso, but I've got a little feeling at the moment that Real Madrid might be lining him up for after Ancelotti goes. That seems like it would make a lot of sense.
Isn't this his last season at Madrid?
I think it will be, yeah. I think it will be.
I thought he signed a pre-contract with Brazil. Is that not true?
I think he said that he wanted to do the two side by side, but realistically, I think he's gonna leave Real Madrid and just commit his time to that, especially with the World Cup coming around in 2026. He'll want to have a good run at it with them. Unless he fancies doing a couple of years with us, I'd take that.
I would take him back, but I don't know, maybe.
The second part of Greg's question is, say Pioli left and Conte rejoins Juventus, would you go back for Allegri? Though the football sucked, he's a proven challenger. Well, if anybody watched the second half, it is, yeah, it is. And I know I've just said, like previously in the episode, I love clean sheets. I love those results that you grind out that aren't necessarily the most entertaining, but you feel like you're in control. That's kind of what we were. That's kind of what Allegri's Juve has been. I think people forget that Allegri's Milan were actually quite an entertaining side. We scored plenty of goals, and we were never out of games. Like we were 3-0 down against Lecce and came back to win 4-3. You know, it was a fun era really under Allegri. Things fell apart a little bit, and before he left, we know that. But he did bring us a couple of trophies. But no, I wouldn't. I don't think that he's the manager that this young and talented group of players needs. I think he would coach all of the individuality and all of the creativity out of them. People could argue that's what Pioli's doing right now. I mean, the question was if Pioli leaves. So I'm just saying that if that were the case, I would go for a manager who is better at developing individuals. But we also need someone who can have us challenging for trophies.
I mean, here's the thing. Allegri does like take the creativity out of these players, but he also wins games. Pioli takes the creativity out, and he has no technical ability to like create game tactics. So like there is a big difference there.
Yeah. And even though we've had the rub of the green over Juve more recently, when we lost that game 1-0, and I know there was the red card for Chiao, which definitely played a big part in why we lost that game. But just like the second half, and it was peak. It was a symbolic Allegri game. Just get yourselves in front and play anti-football. I think fans would become quite upset with that quite quickly, given what we've been treated to at times under Pioli. I think they'd want a different appointment to that. However, there is that section of the fan base who would say side before individuals, win by any means. As long as we get trophies, it doesn't matter. Like some of the stuff under Ancelotti wasn't great, but it was effective. And yeah, but I don't think it'll be Allegri. I think that bridge is burned for now. Hassan Abujeri asks, Milan are in the Champions League final, and from this trio, Giroud, Leao, Teo, start one, bench one, and bring one on in the 70th minute.
I'm starting Giroud.
Wow.
No, I'm starting Leao. Oh, fuck. Man.
That's a really good question.
I'm starting Giroud. I'm bringing Leao on in the 70th, and I'm benching Teo. I don't think Giroud's good at acclimating to the game speed coming on late in the game.
Yeah, like if this means... Yeah, I agree with that totally. If this means that the squad is as it is now, and like Giroud doesn't have a backup, so we're essentially starting Jovic over Giroud, basically. If you don't start him, then Giroud should start. Yeah, and I'm going to go on the assumption that it is the current squad. So it would be Giroud starting, Leao off the bench, last 20, 25 minutes to have a run at a tired defence. And yeah, I think you can make an argument that Teo is the player who at the moment just doesn't have a replacement. We literally don't have a deputy left back. I mean, he's not going to play Bartazaki. He'd rather play Florenzi out of position.
Is Kalulu injured? Where is he?
Yeah. Kalulu's injured until probably like February or something like that.
God
damn. Yeah, it was pretty bad when he got. That was a good question. Michael Gambino asks, do Milan have a legitimate chance at signing Akor Adams since the management aren't fans of a bidding war, or will they try to get a pre-contract with Jonathan David and bring his price down? I don't think either of those things apply, to be honest. Akor Adams, for those who don't know, has scored 7 goals with Montpellier this season, which makes him the second top scorer in the league, ridiculously. He only joined them in the summer from somewhere in Norway, and he cost them 4.5 million euros. I think his price now will probably be more than double, but I think it would be accessible if we go on the assumption that we have the Taremi money left over from the summer, which would be around about 18 million, something like that. So I think we could get Adams. I'm not familiar with the potential of a bidding war breaking out because I haven't read that there are other clubs that are seriously interested, nor have I read that he's the one that we're definitely focusing on. If anything, I've read more that Jonathan David is the guy that we're pursuing. And I don't think a pre-contract comes into the equation for him because it doesn't run out until 2025. So we wouldn't be able to agree a pre-contract with Jonathan David until January 2025. So we need a striker before then. It wouldn't put that much pressure on Lille. I think we'll try for David as early as the coming January if the price is right. You know, if they're still quoting us 50 million, you walk away because he's scored 3 goals in the league this season, and it's too big a gamble for a player who has shown himself to be hot and cold. Adams, I'm still not sold on based on what I've seen. I think he's an interesting profile, but to throw him in there and say this guy's going to be our future number 9, I'm not so sure. You've got to remember that 6 months ago, everybody would have absolutely snatched at signing Jonathan David because he'd scored 25 goals in the league and thought he could be our guy long term. Then the other name is like Guirassy in the Bundesliga. He scored 15 goals in 9 games or something. It might be 16 in 10 now. Which is a ridiculous record. He's second only to Harry Kane. He's got a release clause of 17.5 million. The way I see it, we're going to have to sign 2 strikers by the start of next season, and Giroud's going to have to be backup or third choice. If one of those is, I say sign, one of those could be Colombo. So you could be looking at new striker Colombo, Giroud going into next season, and I don't think that's the end of the world. But we might also be looking at Colombo, who still only has 3 goals for Monza this season, saying he might never have it. So do we cash in now and get the capital gain and spend it on somebody else who maybe has a higher ceiling? That's a dilemma. Yeah, I don't know. Like the striker thing, I'm struggling with it. I don't see the perfect option, to be totally honest. I think David's going to be overpriced.
It's also always a gamble, right? I'm not taking a guy at the first one. I don't know what his name was. Yeah. Look, it's his first season there. Do we want to bring up Piontek again, or no? Jonathan David started out strong, and I feel like he's been kind of like coasting since. I would take a gamble on him only because he has remained semi-competitive. Maybe he just needs a change of scenery. Maybe he needs better players around him. I would take Jonathan David personally. He's also a Canadian, so he's probably a good person.
He's probably really nice.
Yeah.
He's born in Brooklyn as well, so
there we go.
Got a competitive edge as well, I'd imagine. The one that I like the most that we've been linked with is is actually a Mexican Maddie, so don't fly off the handle here. But Santiago Jimenez, who's banging him in for Feyenoord, he looks really good. He's played up front on his own. He basically fired them to a league title. He's been scoring goals in Europe, and I really like him. He's got a lot of strings to his bow, but I think we're going to be priced out of that, to be totally honest. And then, anybody else, it's a gamble. As you say, an investment needs to be made. And whenever the transfer fee is going to be north of 30 million, which it has to be to sign a good striker, it is going to be a gamble. And you just hope that gamble pays off. But yeah, we'll see. It sounds like we're gonna try for David. If we manage to get him with a discount, then it becomes less of a gamble, and maybe there's more upside to it. So,
but we also need the players around the striker to be hitting, right? You need Leao and Pulisic to be in form. You want your midfield to be in form so they can feed the attack. If one of those is lacking, it can completely screw up your striker. So maybe we want to reinforce the midfield a little bit more before we go for a striker, but I think a striker is definitely needed.
Yeah, and then it's next season, let's say down the middle, we've got new striker Giroud / Colombo as the backup. Then on the right wing, we've got Pulisic, Chukwueze. Then on the left wing, we've got Leao Okafor. All of a sudden, the attack, and obviously we're not injury-free for long stretches of time, but all of a sudden that attack looks really good. It's only now at the moment we're thinking, oh my God, we desperately need players because we've got absences. And then, as you say, you're looking at maybe the centre-back position thinking we're a bit short there. You're looking at the midfield thinking we could do with one more player in that position. So, we'll see. I mean, I don't think anything's been decided on the striker front. We shall leave it there. Thank you, as always, to everybody who has listened to the episode. If you could drop us a comment with the striker selection you would make, the team that you would play against Dortmund. We'd love to know your thoughts. And as always, submit your questions for next time on the Twitter page, and you can also send them in on the YouTube comments because I've started copying them across. So feel free to do that, and we'll get it asked next week. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. Maddie, cheers for joining.
Yeah, it's been a good one. See you guys later in the week for the bonus pod.
Yes, do tune into that one. I don't know what the topic's going to be for that one just yet. I've got a couple of ideas in mind. And of course, you can actually suggest topics for the bonus podcast if you are a subscriber on Substack. So get your ideas in. But we will see you in a week's time on the main podcast. Catch you then.
Gol! Ancora Teo! È una meraviglia! Il gol di Teo Hernandez da un'area all'altra! È una meraviglia! Senti